Exposed: how one incredible woman transformed the millionaire CEO's life in just 30 days. Sarah's fingers tapped restlessly on her keyboard, each strike shaky as she rushed to prepare for the meeting. She glanced over at Mia's crayon drawings on the desk. Just last night, Mia had asked, "Mommy, will you always be here?" The weight of that question settled deep within her heart, a reminder that every moment was precious but also a fierce call to action. In just a few hours, Jack, the brutish CEO whom she despised yet couldn't help but feel drawn to, would storm into their meeting, his aura crackling with entitlement and arrogance. How could someone so wealthy feel so untouchable while she struggled for every penny? As the clock ticked down, Sarah's stomach twisted into knots. She felt like a ship at sea amid a storm, surging with waves of frustration that begged to be unleashed. The startup was failing, and she wrestled with the insurmountable pressure from her family to achieve something more substantial, something they could be proud of. All she wanted was security for Mia, a safe haven that felt unattainable in their cramped city apartment. Would they ever escape those thin walls filled with expectations? Would she even be able to breathe? Jack burst into the conference room 10 minutes late, his expensive suit contrasting sharply with the cluttered meeting table. He glanced around without a hint of recognition before locking eyes with her. "We're wasting time," he snapped, cutting her off before she could voice her thoughts about the project. The sharp edge of his words stung like frostbite, triggering a flicker of defiance within her. "Excuse me, Jack," she interrupted, steeling her voice. "This is about our future. Every opinion counts." She could feel the eyes of her colleagues flick on her, wide with surprise. Her heart raced yet steadied as she braced for his retort. To her shock, Jack paused, the challenge flickering in his gaze, something shifting beneath the hardened surface. For the first time, she saw vulnerability behind his demeanor, a man burdened by his choices, much like her. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The meeting devolved into chaos, colleagues hurling self-serving suggestions that felt like daggers aimed at each other. Sarah clenched her fists, feeling the walls close in. She was trapped in this cycle of ego and greed. Jack's resolve crumbled, just a fraction, and a flicker of remorse crossed his expression as he met her searching gaze. He had built a kingdom but was losing control. She could see that now. Their contrasting lives began intertwining, but tension knotted ever tighter as her voice echoed within her. Did she have enough courage to keep pushing against the tide? As their project developed, more than just professional interests were laid bare, hidden histories unraveled, elevating the stakes even further. With each revelation that came to light, the connection she shared with Jack deepened, threading vulnerability into ambition. She questioned what she had to lose and whether she could push through despite fears rising like stormwaters. As the deadline approached, an unexpected letter arrived bearing shocking truths that threatened to upend everything they had built together. The specter of unfinished business loomed, daring to unravel the fragile bond they had formed, leaving Sarah clinging desperately to her dreams of a better future. Would she embrace the profound risk ahead, or allow this chance to slip through her fingers, another dream deferred? In that moment, all she knew was that the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, and she was terrified of what it might reveal. Sarah stared at the letter, its implications twisting like a knife in her gut. The words blurred together as anxiety clawed at her mind. Shaking her head, as if to dislodge the panic, she leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. What the letter contained weren't mere revelations, they were potential derailments of her hard-fought progress. The door creaked open, and Jack entered, his expression steely. She took a steadying breath, trying to mask her turmoil. This was not just about them anymore. This was about everything she had sacrificed for Mia, everything she hoped to build. "We need to talk," he stated bluntly, though his tone held an unfamiliar softness, with hesitation suffusing the air. They sat across from each other, an ocean of unspoken words stretching between them. His presence was magnetic, drawing her in, even as her instincts told her to pull away. Jack, the titan of industry, now appeared more human, more troubled than she had ever realized. "You're not going to believe what I found," he finally began, but Sarah cut in, desperate to maintain control of the moment. "What about this letter?" she said, her heart racing. "It implicates everything we've worked for, Jack. It could ruin us." Her voice sliced through the tension, carrying the weight of her fears. He leaned forward, eyebrows knitting together. "We need to face this, Sarah. We don't have to play their games. This is about integrity, about ownership. We're not just pawns. We can take charge." His conviction was palpable, grounding her amidst the storm of doubt swirling inside. The revelation struck her with force. Jack was willing to step away from the corporate shadow he had long navigated. But what if it led to failure? The specter of making the wrong choice loomed over her, each decision laid bare like cards on the table. Would she dare risk their burgeoning relationship, their fragile trust? "I can't lose this," she murmured, the raw honesty escaping her lips. The admission shook her, almost tangible in its significance. "I can't lose anything else." He reached across the table, an unexpected gesture that sent a bolt of electricity through her. "We won T lose. Not if we own this together. Your voice matters, and you have power. Don't forget that," he encouraged, sincerity etched across his features. It felt like a call to arms, igniting a dormant spark within her. Reminded of Mia's unwavering belief in her, Sarah's resolve began to thaw the icy fear. She began piecing together a plan, a strategy that could leverage both her newfound influence and Jack's corporate prowess. They could face this storm head-on, together. As she stood to engage the team, she felt a shift within herself, a dawning realization that her abilities were more significant than she had acknowledged. Fueled by her love for Mia and the fire ignited by Jack's trust, she pieced together strategies in her mind. "Everyone," she called, her voice stronger than she felt. "We need to regroup and rethink our approach. We have something we can salvage, but we have to face the truth together." Their skeptical glances challenged her, but she held her ground, determined to foster a collaborative effort. The team hesitated, but as she outlined the implications of the letter and their potential responses, something shifted. Slowly, she drew them into the conversation, empowering their contributions and fostering confidence in each person present. Each idea exchanged fostered camaraderie, intertwining their destinies in a shared mission. The collective energy surged, but as suggestions flowed, the haunting letter still weighed heavily in her mind. Secrets were buried, and the unresolved tensions simmering beneath the surface wouldn't simply vanish. And as she concluded, she realized a reckoning was imminent. The time had come to face those hidden truths. There was more lurking beneath the surface than she had anticipated, and deciding to embrace the chaos would demand courage she had yet to uncover. Would she be bold enough to explore what lay ahead? With the stakes climbing higher, Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself for the challenges looming around the corner. The fire inside her didn't just flicker, it blazed anew, ready to confront whatever darkness lurked in the shadows. But with her heart pounding, she couldn't shake the anxiety curling around the edges of her resolve. The moment beckoned, yet encompassing choices lay ahead, veiled in uncertainty and promise. The weight of what awaited them hovered precariously above her, sparking both excitement and dread. Would it strengthen their bond? Or would it shatter everything they had built? As she stepped back from the table, fully aware of their impending journey, Sarah felt the swirling uncertainty tighten around her, a storm gathering just beyond the horizon. The risk of not only failure but revelation lurked, and she couldn't help but wonder, what would they ultimately discover about one another and themselves? Only time would tell as they approached the pivotal crossroads of truth. Sarah walked out of the meeting room, heart racing, each footfall echoing the shift within her. The faces of her team lingered in her mind, the mixture of skepticism and hope reflected in their eyes. They were with her, but what that truly meant was still shrouded in ambiguity. Each of them had their own fears and stakes, just as she did. The letter lay weighty in her thoughts, the words haunting her like shadows at dusk. As she made her way back to her desk, she wondered how far she was willing to go to protect what she had built. Did she possess the fortitude to confront not just external threats but the underlying issues that had remained unaddressed? Suddenly, an unexpected phone call broke her reverie. Glancing at the screen, she hesitated. Mia's school. Instinct kicked in, a sense of urgency coursed through her. She answered, steeling herself for what felt like the underside of her worst fears. Hello? Ms. Williams, I'm calling regarding Mia, the voice on the other end said briskly. There's been an incident. We need you to come in. Her breath caught. What had happened? Had Mia gotten into trouble, or was it something more grave? A surge of maternal instinct pushed aside the weight of corporate dealings, urging her to act. She scribbled a quick note for Jack, ensuring he was aware of the situation, then hastened to her car. Each mile felt like a countdown. Her mind raced through a treacherous labyrinth of what-ifs. What if Mia was hurt? What if this put everything out of control? As she navigated the familiar streets, the tangled feelings settled into something sharper, a resolve to confront anything that threatened her daughter. She was a mother first, an employee second. And in that moment, her priorities felt overwhelmingly clear. Upon arriving at the school, chaos greeted her. A knot formed in her stomach as she approached the receptionist, desperation lacing her voice. I'm here for my daughter, Mia Williams. What happened? We need you to calm down, the receptionist replied, a hint of annoyance in her tone. There was a minor altercation, nothing that requires concern. She's in the nurse's office right now. Minor? Her heart thudded painfully as images flooded her mind. She swallowed the fear twisting her insides and moved swiftly to the nurse's office. Each step felt heavier than the last, anticipation and dread tangling in her gut. When she pushed the door open, relief surged. Mia sat huddled on the edge of a cot, nursing a scrape on her knee. But as Mia looked up, her eyes glistened with unshed tears, something deeper than physical discomfort. Sarah knelt beside her girl, wrapping her arms around her, and in that embrace, she felt a surge of warmth that reminded her of the stakes. Mama, I didn't want to fight, Mia whispered. It just happened. I wanted to walk away. Sarah let the words wash over her, grounding her. You made the right choice by wanting to avoid conflict. The truth felt monumental, a lesson she had yet to fully internalize herself. But sometimes, facing things head-on is necessary, even when it's hard. As they spoke, Mia's gaze rose above her mother's shoulder, momentarily distracted. Sarah turned to see Jack standing at the door, an anxious expression on his face. His presence, so unexpected, ignited a fleeting sense of hope. Each of them confronted their truths in their own ways, and perhaps the bridge between them could be widened. Hey, Mia, Jack said softly, stepping inside. You okay? The warm connection sparked, but tension hung palpably in the air. Sarah sensed a shift, and a myriad of unspoken questions bloomed. She took a breath, preparing herself to discuss the murky waters they were about to delve into together. This moment was another intersection where their personal lives intertwined with professional aspirations. Facing the turmoil outside and within, Sarah understood that the path ahead required assessing not just threats but also vulnerabilities. A confrontation loomed not just with external forces but the truth she had yet to acknowledge even about herself. As they navigated through this immediate crisis, dismissing the looming letter for the moment, she felt the weight of interconnected lives pressing close. But the storm was still brewing on the horizon, and the true challenge lay ahead. Could they support one another in the vulnerable spaces as they moved toward an uncertain future? The question remained, casting a shadow as they walked out of the nurse's office together, determined yet uncertain. What truths awaited them when the dust finally settled? The soft murmur of the nurse's office faded as Sarah, Jack, and Mia stepped into the bustling school hallway. Laughter echoed around them, children darting back and forth, oblivious to the tides of emotional chaos enveloping the adults. Sarah held Mia's hand tightly, a physical link grounding her amidst the tumult. Mia quietly leaned into her mother, her earlier burst of tears quelled but a flicker of distress still evident in her eyes. This incident felt like more than just an isolated skirmish, it was a reminder of fragility, her childless growth veiled in conflict. Urgency surged through Sarah, not just out of protectiveness but from the instinct that told her she had to confront the challenges now facing them all. As they exited the school, Sarah's mind oscillated between her daughter and her professional responsibilities. After their talk in the nurse's office, she felt an unfamiliar stir of resolve within her. Could she draw on this experience, apply its lessons to the professional landscape that awaited her? "Let us get some ice cream to celebrate you being brave today," Sarah suggested, trying to project cheerfulness. Mia's face brightened, but a shadow of uncertainty lingered. "What if they don't stop picking on me, Mama?" Sarah hesitated, struck by the weight of her daughter's words. They were echoed in a deeper chamber of her own mind. What if she couldn't handle the pressure? What if her attempts to shield Mia inadvertently rendered her vulnerable? She had devoted years to building her career now, it seemed ephemeral in the face of this personal crisis. The letter from corporate loomed larger than ever as she tried to navigate motherhood and professional demands. "Sometimes, Mia, we have to learn to stand firm," she said slowly, weighing each word. "It's okay to ask for help, but it's also important to know when to stand your ground." As they ordered their ice creams, the colorful chaos of the ice cream shop briefly distracted her. She felt a flicker of joy at Mia's delighted giggle when the server handed over a scoop stacked high with rainbow sprinkles, but as they settled into a booth, the pressures of the impending meeting with her board and the cryptic letter began to constrict around her thoughts again. Did she have the courage to face not only her team but also the parts of herself that flashed warnings of inadequacy? What did it mean to pursue both her family's well-being and her professional aspirations? The words from the meeting returned to her, echoing her uncertainty. The tone of the letter suggested an impending shift, but she hadn't yet grasped its full implications. Every choice made would ripple across the lives intertwined with hers, each the thread of a larger tapestry still to be woven. "Are you okay, Mama?" Mia's innocent question broke through Sarah's reverie. "Just thinking," she replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. What began as a day marked by urgent protectiveness transformed into a moment of reckoning. The realization that her professional life required the same resilience she was demanding of Mia burrowed deeper. In navigating the storm, both personal and professional, she had to be the role model, to embody the lessons of confrontation and resilience she preached. As they finished their ice creams, Sarah's thoughts became clearer. She made a decision: it was time to confront both the challenges at home and the boardroom head-on. "Locking eyes with Mia," she said, "we're going to tackle things together, okay? I promise you're not alone in this." With renewed strength, she resolved that the upcoming meetings wouldn't just be about business but about proving to herself and her family that they could face adversity together. Steeling herself for the confrontation ahead, Sarah forged a new plan in her mind, one that balanced vulnerability with the fierce determination she felt for her daughter's future. As they exited the ice cream shop, ready to tackle the next chapter, the shadows of confusion began to dissipate. But above it all, a newfound layer of uncertainty replaced them. What? Would those confrontations unravel? Would she find the strength in her own vulnerabilities, or would they fracture the very foundation she was fighting to build? Behind them, the bustling streets echoed with life, and ahead lay a crossroad where decisions awaited, both urgent and poignant. What awaited them just beyond the next turn? Sarah was beginning to understand the depths of what it meant to transform chaos into clarity, but the path ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty. Walking hand in hand with Mia, Sarah's determination swelled like an ocean tide. The weight of their day had settled into her bones, and she could feel the critical intersection of her personal and professional lives demanding immediate attention. Each step forward propelled her deeper into reflection, nudging aside the mix of anxiety and resolve that had collided within her. Arriving back home, Mia bounded towards her room, eager to escape into the world of her toys. Sarah stood in the living room, a brief silence filling the space before chaos resumed. Suddenly, the chaos of the office wasn't enough. The flickering lights of uncertainty pulled her thoughts to the ominous letter waiting on the dining table. It felt as though it was undulating, pulsing, holding secrets she had yet to confront. As she picked it up, she hesitated, scanning the envelope as if the mere sight would unveil its buried truths. With a deep breath, she sliced it open, each tear of paper amplifying her apprehension. The corporate language dripped with formality, yet it rang with stark implications. She would need to present her vision for the upcoming quarter, a chance to reshape the trajectory of her department. Yet, it was more. The unspoken threat lingered. The buzz around her department hinted at downsizing, a restructuring that could displace her team. Confronting the board wouldn't just be about strategy, it was a defense for everything she had worked for, and for the people who had become more than colleagues. And then there was Mia, whose well-being and security became one with her professional landscape. How could she lead with vision when her heart was tethered so intimately to familial fears? The question gnawed at her, an ache she could not shake. She moved into the kitchen, willing herself to cook dinner while rehearsing her pitch. The aroma of garlic sizzling in olive oil infused her senses, but even the familiar comfort of culinary routines fell flat in the face of her rising anxiety. She needed clarity. This time, not only for her professional life but for the embodiment of strength Mia needed to see in her. Suddenly, a thought crystallized with startling clarity: she had to confront her own vulnerabilities. The weight of perfectionism, of wanting to encapsulate the ideal of both a mother and a leader, had stifled her. Sarah poured herself a glass of wine, its rich dark hue resting like her fears in her palm, and she realized that embracing imperfection could be her greatest asset. What if she admitted to her team that things were uncertain? What if she led them with honesty rather than the facade of unwavering confidence? The envisioning of a collaborative space, one built on shared struggles, surged within her. Each member of her team deserved transparency. They could navigate this together, setting the foundation not just for survival but for growth. As she simmered in her ideas, imagining how they would articulate not only the professional goals but the emotional journeys, adrenaline coursed through her veins. This moment was a stepping stone to reclaiming both her identity and her agency over the unfolding chaos. "Mama, dinner's ready." Mia's voice erupted from the playroom, fusing Sarah's scattered thoughts into the warmth of home life. "Coming," Sarah replied, choosing to balance her two worlds, revealing the inner fortitude required to mold them together. As mother and daughter sat side by side, sharing half-finished stories of bravery and resilience, she felt inspired to forge that vision into action. Laughter mingled with the aroma of warm spaghetti, and just as she watched Mia giggle over the strands, a question sparked in her mind: what if her own path began with harnessing the joy in vulnerability, turning it into a powerful magnet for collaboration? She paused, regarding her daughter with new deliberation, and silently resolved to bring that light into the boardroom. The confrontation ahead wasn't just a battle for survival, it was a chance to illuminate a path for not only herself but for everyone around her. The dinner conversation flowed easily, but the pulse of anticipation thrummed just beneath the surface. Was she bold enough to let go of her meticulously curated armor? The taste of freedom danced on her tongue, and action loomed as the next chapter began to write itself. But as she finished the last bite, a shadow flickered across her thoughts. What if her openness laid her vulnerabilities bare to those who might exploit them? The mingled confusion and determination hung heavily in the air, threatening to unravel the resolution she had begun to solidify. It was clear, she had reached a pivotal moment within herself. As the night settled and Mia drifted off to sleep, Sarah sat alone with her thoughts. In the sanctity of the night, the echoes of uncertainty beckoned once more. Would this new path truly liberate her or plunge her deeper into strife? The echoes of her resolve reverberated ominously, holding her hostage to the thrill of newfound potential. Tomorrow, the board awaited her, and so did the choice between stepping onto a stage of revelation or retreating into a fragment of her former self. Would she unleash her true strength, or would she watch from the sidelines as life unfolded? The moment felt critical. The urgency was tangible, and the confrontation loomed as the ultimate test of her metamorphosis. The morning light filtered softly through the kitchen window, illuminating the remnants of last night's joy and turmoil. Sarah stirred her coffee absent-mindedly, feeling the weight of the day pressing down. Today marked a turning point, an unprecedented opportunity to redefine her leadership and confront the fears that threatened to paralyze her forward motion. As she gazed out at the world outside, the serenity around her stood in stark contrast to the storm brewing within. Her thoughts spiraled into 1,000 possibilities, each one an echo of her decision to embrace vulnerability. What if honesty could fortify her team's spirit instead of exposing her weaknesses? After a hurried breakfast of toast and butter, Sarah walked Mia to the bus stop. The rhythmic beating of her heart matched the resolve blossoming within her. Whatever lay ahead, she would face it with her authentic self. As the bus pulled away, the final images of Mia waving fervently washed over her, stacking the stakes higher. It wasn't merely her career at stake, it was Mia's perception of strength, resilience, and growth that hovered in the air like a delicate thread. The duality of her roles pressed upon her, igniting conflicting emotions. When Sarah arrived at the office, the sharpness of clean lines and muted colors felt stifling. She took a deep breath, inhaling the familiar scent of polished wood and lingering coffee before stepping into the whirlwind of her team's expectations. They gathered around the conference table, their faces a mosaic of uncertainty interlaced with anticipation. The air crackled with an unspoken fear, each of them sensing the impending storm. "Thank you all for being here," she began, her voice wavering slightly. Sarah noticed their eyes were glued to her, seeking reassurance. She exhaled, grounding herself for what came next. A few moments of silence passed as she carefully crafted her next words. "I want to pretend everything is fine," she continued, her heartbeat pounding in her ears. "There is uncertainty looming over us, and I'd rather face it together than hide behind false optimism." The room flickered with surprise and concern, but she pressed on. "I believe in our potential, but we have to face this as a team openly and honestly." As she spoke, she could see shoulders relaxing, tension releasing into the air as if her words lifted a weight. In that moment, she recognized a hidden strength within herself, the power of authenticity. Questions began to emerge, and her team opened up, sharing their fears and dreams. Together, they painted a vision of working collaboratively, not just surviving but thriving, even in the face of the unknown. Minutes turned to hours as they entered into a spirited discussion, the momentum growing with each idea shared. Sarah felt the swelling sense of purpose fuse with her confidence, the team willing to fight for each other. They weren't just allies, they were allies on a mission. But amid the camaraderie, her own nagging fear crept back in. Had she truly shed the protective shell that had defined her for so long? Each laugh echoed positively, yet there remained a hesitancy behind each joke, a subtle reminder of the precarious position they all found themselves in. The vulnerability she had embraced so willingly was now an open door to potential criticism and exploitation. As the meeting wrapped up, Sarah sat back in her chair, the aftershocks of the discussion still reverberating through her veins. Empowerment bloomed from their communal honesty, yet the implications of this newfound approach loomed large. Had she inadvertently presented herself as a target for scrutiny? The question tightened around her like a vice. The balance of strength and vulnerability, authenticity and risk, created an intricate web in her mind. While her team thrived in the collective honesty, she knew today's openness could come with a price. Savoring the high of connection, Sarah ran her fingers through her hair, aching to explore this path further. But now she faced a new dilemma: would she remain steadfast in her conviction to be open, or would she revert to the guarded leader who held control, avoiding the risk of exposure? As those thoughts mingled, one uncertainty loomed larger than all others: is the vulnerability she sought a bridge to greater connection, or a risk that could pull her down into turbulent waters? Shifting her gaze to the window, where dark clouds gathered on the horizon, she made a silent vow. Whatever was on the horizon, good or bad, she would step forward and face it head-on, surrendering to the journey and navigating the storm as it approached. As the tension woven through the air thickened, another voice chimed, echoing through her mind. What if this journey was not just about her transformation, but about how it would ripple through her team and her home life as well? The thought settled deep within her, turning her earlier resolve into a whirlwind of new questions. With each tick of the clock, the moment drew closer, a convergence of change that could redefine not just her career but the very fabric of her identity. Would her decision to expose her vulnerabilities save her or unravel her completely? The answer hung precariously in the balance. The office buzzed with the aftermath of the meeting, a kaleidoscope of chatter mixing with the lingering weight of unspoken worries. Sarah sat at her desk, fingers poised over her keyboard but hardly pressing down. The urgency to act throbbed in her chest, yet doubt lurked in the shadows, whispering insidious reminders of past failures. Each heartbeat signaled an inner struggle: how to maintain the momentum she had built without succumbing to the fear of vulnerability's repercussions. As the day wore on, her mind drifted back to the hesitant yet hopeful expressions on her team's faces. They had taken a risk, a chance on her ability to lead them through uncertainty. But could she sustain this level of connection? The notion of being exposed, of laying herself bare, coiled tightly in her stomach. Was she ready to face the scrutiny that came from such honesty, especially with her superior watching closely? The rhythmic hum of chatter around her office felt like an intrusive irritant. She forced herself to acknowledge her unease, reminding herself that authenticity was the cornerstone of real leadership. But the stark reality of her boss's presence weighed heavily on her. He thrived on control and power, often dismissing anything that did not align with his rigid standards. What if he perceived her transparency as weakness? Sarah took a break to refill her coffee, swallowing hard at the bitter scent. The bustling kitchen surrounding her became a port of introspection. Confronting her fears was a necessity, but it was also an exhilarating, terrifying indulgence. An idea sparked in her mind: an upcoming project could be the perfect opportunity to experiment with her newfound approach, to lead a team meeting not just with strategy but with shared vulnerability. That evening, the thought snaked its way home, where Mia's innocent laughter stirred within her a warmth that contrasted sharply with her office anxiety. They settled down for dinner, and as they shared stories from their day, Sarah found herself coveting this connection. Mia's uncomplicated honesty reflected a purity that her professional environment desperately lacked. Watching her daughter's eager expressions, Sarah found a moment of clarity. She had the chance to teach Mia that sharing fears didn't mean one was weak, it demonstrated strength. The following morning was a canvas blank with possibilities. Sitting at her desk, Sarah strategized for the project meeting, gathering her thoughts, focusing on how to structure an authentic dialogue. What if she invited team members to share not just project hurdles, but also their concerns and ideas openly? The initiative would require bravery, not just from her, but from the whole team, potentially fostering a collaborative atmosphere where vulnerability became strength. The clock ticked closer to the meeting time. Her heart raced and her hands trembled slightly. Could she follow through? The echoes of encouragement from her team still resonated, bolstering her resolve. However, the image of her boss, with his shrewd eyes and penetrating criticism, recoiled in her mind. He could dismantle her carefully woven framework with a single dismissive remark. As she walked into the conference, the air felt charged, and nervous energy rippled through her. She caught sight of her team, their expectations palpable. But before she could backtrack, Sarah inhaled deeply, reminding herself why she was there. This was not just about her, it was about empowering them. "Let us start today a little differently," she said, pushing aside her internal monologue. The room stilled, apprehension evident on every face. "I want us to talk about what's bothering us right now, not just the projects, but the obstacles we're facing." An audible tension reduced as the walls of formality began to crack. One by one, her colleagues opened up, each sharing not just their professional hurdles but also insecurities that haunted them. Each admission peeled back layers of isolation and hesitation, revealing shared struggles that bound them closer together. As her heart swelled with pride and nervousness, Sarah realized that she stood at the precipice of either elevating her leadership legacy or risking it all for a chance at authenticity. Yet, amidst the shared emotions, a key player in the room remained silent. William, the newly appointed VP, who had been critical of her every move since he joined the team, watched intently. As his expressions remained unreadable, she couldn't shake the rising dread. Would this openness invite critique instead of the alliance she sought? The exchange drew to a close, and Sarah wondered whether the seeds of collaboration had indeed been planted, or if she had unwittingly exposed them all to another potential storm of criticism. With each tick of the clock, her anticipation of feedback churned into anxiety, leaving her with a gnawing question: had this meeting forged new bonds, or had she inadvertently invited her team into a battleground? As the meeting concluded, she was struck by how everything she envisioned hinged on one critical moment: William's response. He met her gaze, and for a fleeting instant, she felt a rush of uncertainty. Would he support this shift towards openness or pull the rug out from under her feet? The outcome loomed like storm clouds once more, leaving her with a singular thought: would her commitment to vulnerability pay off, or would it pave the way for even deeper conflict ahead? William's silence clung to the air like humidity, thick and suffocating. Sarah's thoughts raced as he stood, seemingly weighing her proposal against some internal standard she could neither see nor understand. Would he dismiss what her team had just shared as irrelevant? Would he criticize her willingness to expose their insecurities in a professional environment? The stakes felt insurmountable. "Interesting approach, Sarah," he finally said, his voice steady and predictable. "Encouraging vulnerability can be risky, especially when the pressure is on to deliver results." Her stomach nodded. She met his gaze, searching for a flicker of belief, but found only his unwavering resolve. "I believe it fosters stronger collaboration. We need to break down barriers to innovate." She was surprised at her own calmness, surprised she had the fortitude to respond rather than shrink back. William raised an eyebrow, studying her. Innovation doesn't come from shared vulnerabilities, it comes from calculated risks and performance metrics. His words landed like heavy stones, the implication clear. It was a threat disguised as a critique. Perhaps, she replied, her voice firmer than she felt. But how often do we measure feelings? How often do we gauge the emotional health of our team when looking at those metrics? Maybe true innovation demands both. His expression shifted ever so slightly, but she could still see the glint of defiance in his eyes. He wasn't accustomed to having his authority challenged, especially from someone he viewed as less experienced. Could she really sustain this momentum in her leadership style while navigating his somber disposition? The remainder of the meeting wore on, but her mind remained tethered to that instant. Each time a team member contributed positively, she felt the weight of William's scrutiny deepening. Yet, amidst that unease, she sensed a flicker of hope. Her colleagues began to embrace this new approach, shedding the cloaks of professionalism in exchange for something far more familiar: humanity. They were connecting, sharing ideas, brainstorming solutions. Wasn't that the true essence of leadership? As the weeks unfolded, she committed to reinforcing this model, nudging her team to explore their thoughts on vulnerability at each project gathering. The results stunned her. People were contributing more, engaging more deeply, and they began sharing their triumphs alongside their struggles. Yet soothing her team was a perpetual challenge, especially when William's critiques resurfaced like haunting specters. During one tight deadline, he cornered her in the break room. "This open-door policy of yours is developing a culture of weakness. You need to remember we're not running a therapy group, we're running a business." Sarah felt the wind leave her lungs. "I don't see a division there. Emotions impact productivity and creativity. Why can't we embrace both?" "Because banking on feelings rather than performance," he countered, "leads to failure." Every confrontation ignited her resolve. Each time William dismissed her approach, she stood straighter, more convinced that her strategy was not just beneficial but essential for long-term success. Around the office, murmurs about her leadership style began circulating. Some hesitated, questioning her capacity to balance vulnerability with results. Others rallied, inspired by a refreshing atmosphere of trust and shared ownership. Sarah's path became increasingly slippery as she navigated accolades and doubts. As she reviewed the latest project outputs from her team that week, noticing higher engagement but also glaring pitfalls in execution, the weight of responsibility pressed down on her. What if she truly was leading them into failure? What if she didn't have the right blend of empathy and performance measurements? The strains of her decisions multiplied as the projects became messier. Sarah found herself agonizing over metrics that didn't reflect the heart of her work. The fear of becoming a laughingstock grew as loud as the praise. One chaotic afternoon, as she prepared for yet another status update with William, her mind spiraled. What did her team truly believe? Did they think she was strong enough to defy conventional wisdom and steer them through the impending storm? With each breath, her uncertainty deepened, but the question lurked at the back of her mind as she confronted each decision point: would she perpetuate a cycle of vulnerability, or risk bringing chaos upon herself and her team? Just as she settled in for their gathering, the office door swung open and an unexpected ally stepped in, one who had observed the dynamics unfolding. Their words, full of conviction and promise, brought with them a new hope on the horizon. Would this pivotal moment change the course of her leadership, or unravel everything she had worked to build? The room fell silent as everyone turned to listen. The tension in the air pulsed with the potential for monumental change. The silence in the room was deafening, charged with the weight of anticipation. Sarah turned her gaze toward the newcomer, a senior consultant who had recently joined their firm, and who seemed to grasp the complexities of team dynamics far better than most. Jordan was known for his practical approach, blending analytics with genuine emotional insight, a rare combination that could complement her methods beautifully. "Thanks, everyone," he began, his voice strong yet warm, soothing the palpable tension. "I've been observing what's taking place here, and let me tell you, Sarah, what you're doing is not just innovative, it's essential, especially in today's work culture." A flicker of gratitude sparked within Sarah, igniting her hope just a bit brighter. But it was a spark threatened by William's icy demeanor. Watching intently, trying to dissect the newcomer's every syllable. Jordan continued, rather than fearing vulnerabilities, it's time to embrace them. When teams are open about their fears and challenges, they're not only more engaged, they're also more resilient. I've seen this work firsthand. His words resonated through the room, each sentence shoring up the foundation Sarah had steadily built through months of uncertainty. But beneath that sturdy exterior lay her own fears. What if William dismissed Jordan's contributions as invalid? Sarah has been paving the way for this type of environment. However, I believe we can take it a step further, Jordan said, turning his attention back to her. What would happen if we structured vulnerability as part of our team strategy? Make it a tangible goal? The idea sent ripples through the crowd. To formalize vulnerability, to measure it as they would any other metric, could this meld innovation with accountability? A new fusion breathed life into her thoughts. Before she could articulate her ideas, William interjected, metrics must remain strictly performance-based. Pursuing emotional expressions risk diversion from our outcomes. His skepticism hung in the air, thickening the atmosphere again. Or, Jordan countered smoothly, it could lead to a drastic improvement in performance. If the team feels secure sharing challenges, they can tackle them together, improving productivity across the board. Fear and frustration danced within Sarah. She understood the genesis of William's perspective. He struggled as a leader, challenged in his authority by her growing influence, and now, a newcomer alongside her. The battle lines had been drawn. Sarah noticed subtle nods among her team members. Had they begun to see what she had envisioned all along? A drift towards collective strength rather than solitary efficiency. But could this be the moment that solidified her leadership or tarnished it forever? Discomfort twisted in her gut. With each confrontation, William sharpened his attacks, exposing her vulnerabilities to the world while she fought to present an image of strength. In her mind, self-doubt flickered. Was she building something strong, or merely setting the stage for collapse? As Jordan leaned into the conversations, offering further examples from his past experiences, Sarah could feel her energy returning, rekindling her belief that she was capable of this leadership. Could Jordan be the ally she needed to flourish? Both professionally and personally, with determination bubbling back to the surface, she surprised herself by chiming in. What if we launched a pilot project that formalizes this approach? A test case for vulnerability? We could track both engagement and productivity metrics side by side. The murmurs faded into thoughtful silence as her suggestion hung in the air. William's expression shifted to one of clear dissent. You're not serious, he challenged, an edge to his tone. You'd risk our reputation on a subjective concept? On the potential whims of your feelings-first initiative? The tension escalated as Sarah felt the all-too-familiar rush of emotion, her pulse quickening. It's not subjective, William. It's about understanding the psychological state of our team and leveraging it for better performance. This is about growth. Jordan nodded appreciatively, his encouragement feeding a fire she hadn't realized was still alive inside her. But the battle lines were carefully drawn, and she could feel the neighboring trenches deepen with every passing second. The stakes had never felt steeper. Would her strategic leap into the unknown yield transformative results, or would it spiral into chaos, with her ambitions crushed beneath the weight of expectations? Just as the tension peaked, the meeting door burst open again. This time, it wasn't just an ally. An unexpected senior executive strode in, eyes focused on Sarah, ready to add yet another layer to her challenging equation. Would this newcomer seize the moment or unravel it all? The air grew thick with far more than just anticipation, it shimmered with peril. The room held its breath as the senior executive, Karen Delaney, waltzed in, an essence of authority surrounding her. Known for her sharp acumen and strategic mindset, she drew immediate attention. I couldn't help but overhear the discussion, she said, her tone one of measured interest. Sarah, your idea to formalize vulnerability is bold, and I admire that. A flicker of surprise passed through Sarah, a mix of trepidation and hope blooming anew. Confidence surged in her veins. Thank you, Karen. I believe that creating an environment where we can openly share challenges could ultimately drive us towards better outcomes. Even as William's glare felt like a tightening noose, the potential support from Karen shifted the dynamics like a sun breaking through storm clouds. Yet, doubt lingered in Sarah's mind. Would this be another moment of validation, or yet another obstacle to overcome? Karen continued, it's especially crucial in our current climate. Bringing forth innovation demands more than just metrics, it fosters a sense of trust and collaboration. There it was, the validation Sarah desperately craved. This was more than a mere endorsement, it was a call to action. While doubt still flickered in the background, she drew strength from Karen's acknowledgement, refocusing on the challenge at hand. I propose we initiate a pilot project to track engagement and performance metrics, Sarah stated, her voice firm, steadying her resolve against the rising tide of uncertainty. Jordan nodded enthusiastically. We'll monitor the metrics closely and compare them to previous projects. This will allow us to measure the impact of vulnerability on our output directly. William's skepticism persisted, a thunderstorm threatening in the background. You're pushing us into uncharted territory, risking the success of our operations, he countered. Or, Sarah interjected, emboldened, we're giving our team the necessary space to thrive, which is a calculated risk. This felt different. With each exchange, she sensed herself shedding the restraints of fear. Karen smiled, her eyes glinting with the light of opportunity. Let us not dismiss the potential impact of emotional health on operational success. I think it's worth exploring. Leadership today requires both vision and humanity. The room flared with enthusiasm, and the tension began to ebb. Sarah's heart quickened with excitement, taste of victory at her fingertips. The unified sense of purpose felt electric, far stronger than the doubts languishing in the corners of her mind. As the meeting came to a close, the momentum swelled, and she witnessed a transformation unfolding before her. Ideas flowed freely, encouraging her colleagues to provide input without the fear of judgment. They banded together, crafting a strategic plan that allowed them to tackle their challenges collaboratively. In that moment, the bonds she had forged within her team reaffirmed her being. They were no longer just team members, they had become allies in a shared mission. The warmth of support enveloped her, each nod of agreement fortifying her spirit as they crafted the foundation of what would become an era of openness, accountability, and resilience within the organization. As she left the meeting room, Sarah faced the daunting task of embedding this concept into their working culture. Stepping onto the elevator, her pulse danced with exhilaration and uncertainty, but there was a new clarity. This was her chance to rise, not just as a leader but as the embodiment of the very change she sought. Determined to harness this momentum, she called an impromptu session with her team. Their excitement was palpable, laughter echoing through the conference room as they gathered around, and once more, the walls of the office felt less constrictive, more alive with promise. Let us create a space where our mark will be felt, where vulnerability isn't a weakness but a strength, she proposed. Her team echoed her sentiment, excitement rippling through them, solidifying a commitment to challenge their fears and approach their work as champions of change. With each passing day, the synergy flourished. Metrics began to reflect improvement, but more strikingly was the newfound sense of trust that filled the office. Employees began to open up, not just to each other but to her as well. The decisions they made pulsed with renewed clarity, crafting pathways that diverged from the rigid metrics they had once blindly followed. Amidst personal challenges looming in the background providing for Mia, reconciling her own vulnerabilities, Sarah found strength in her professional triumphs. Taking her role as a mother and leader intertwined, she embraced her journey wholeheartedly. She knew that her success now wasn't just about corporate numbers but ensuring that what she built solidified both in her professional realm and her home life. As recognition from higher-ups started cascading down, with Karen publicly commending her leadership style, Sarah's position solidified. Confidence bloomed abundantly, flourishing through every challenge she had faced, allowing the woman she had become to shine through. In essence, Sarah stepped into her power not just as a team leader but as a mother, proving that the courage to embrace vulnerability redefined her narrative, creating a legacy crafted from both personal and professional success. She knew this was just the beginning, challenges awaited, but she had learned to trust her instincts, determined to rise at every opportunity afforded. She had reached a significant milestone, but the journey of self-discovery, of strength, was continuous, and she was ready to face it head-on. In that spirit of growth, she leaned over her desk, mind focused, gears turning, preparing for the next step, for synergy, for a better tomorrow. Now, it's time for you to step into your own power. If you are inspired by Sarah's journey of transformation and want to hear more incredible stories about personal growth and resilience, you need to subscribe now to our channel. Leave a like now to help fuel the stories that inspire change. Comment your thoughts or reflections on what you've learned and share the video with at least 5 friends who need a dose of motivation and empowerment. Don't wait even one more second. Join us in building a community of true fans of personal overcoming stories.